Hey, what's going on, guys? Dr. Wallace here. Welcome back to another Gears 5 video. Today I'm going to be talking about something I wanted to make a video about for a while, on how to counter the reflective shell modifiers in Horde Escape. So in Escape, it's only on 2 of the 31 hives. It's on the ambush, and it's on the mist. And then the reflective shell mods in Horde are, you can get reflective shell heavies, you come with the long range gambit mods, and then you can get reflective shell grenadiers on another mod set. So basically a brief overview of what reflective shell is and how it works. So when you damage a reflective shell enemy up to where it drops below its halfway health point, it will reflect damage back like the gunner's ultimate would, back to you for 5 seconds. So any ballistic damage or bleed damage will be, or burn damage if you're a brawler, will be sent back to you 5 seconds. And also damage robotics experts or architects if they're engineers in the game that build fortifications, barriers if a reflective scion walks over them. Engineer will take damage. And so I'm going to talk real quick. I'm going to show some gameplay obviously after this, but I want to talk real quick about how do you counter those modifiers, and there's an easy way to do that, and that is to hold an explosive weapon out. So when you do ballistic damage, you're much going to down yourself or hurt yourself every time. So you obviously don't want to shoot the reflective enemy with any bullets or sniper rifle bullets. Any bleed damage is really important, so the way to counter that is just to hold a boom shot out or any explosive weapon. So any grenade will count. So holding an explosive weapon out, that counts as any grenade, a boom shot, a drop shot, a torque bow, and a salvo count. The Lancer GL does not count, but the Scorcher does. Even though it's not technically explosive, it fires flames. It's not ballistic either, so I guess. But in this respect, for sponging damage dealt to a reflective enemy, switching to a Scorcher will prevent you from getting hurt. I have a lot of gameplay clips of this coming up, like just shooting enemies with, leading enemies with several guns, and showing you that switching quick enough helps you prevent taking damage. For that, I wanted to talk about like kind of just each character's role, I guess, or each class's role, on like how you would tackle the reflective shell. So Blade Master is a melee class that can melee better with its ultimate, of course. The main thing there is I would just recommend as a secondary weapon, hold like a boom shot or a drop shot instead of like a Nasher, and you should be good. Demolitions. So this isn't obviously a explosive class, but where you're going to be using booms and GLs, I would recommend shying away from the GL. You can use a GL in the mod. Just remember that you had to switch over to a boom shot or another explosive weapon to sponge the reflective bleed and be sent back to you. So just make sure you're with that. Infiltrator, the main thing here, again, I'd recommend holding a boom or a drop or a torque. So basically what you want to do, you'll just play Infiltrator as you would normally, and when you bleed the scions or whatever, just switch to a drop shot so you can sponge it, and then wait for the reflection to stop, and then you can finish it off. Once it reflects once, it will not do it again. Marksman, so this doesn't do any bleed damage, but it does do explosive critical damage. You might take some damage if you headshot an enemy that's near a reflecting scion. Of course, if you shoot it directly, you will go down, or make you take damage at least. The thing I would recommend as Marksman is when you're in your ultimate, try to kill like the reflecting enemies, which mostly are the scions, when they're full health. And then try not to shoot them again for a few seconds, because unless you one-shot them, if you one-shot them, they're not going to reflect because they're dead. They go from 100 to 0. If you one-shot them and they go from 100 health to like 30% health, they will start reflecting because it's below the 50% threshold. So once they start doing that, I would recommend not shooting them, because in your ult you can't see if that they're reflecting. So I would recommend going to another enemy. Combat, it's another sniper class. Same thing like as a marksman, a marksman, sniper. Just make sure that you don't shoot them when they're reflecting, because you will take damage. / go down. If you're running execution build, you can melee combo and chainsaw reflecting grenadiers, so that's fine. I would recommend, though, when you're meleeing them, like have an explosive weapon out anyway, just to make sure you're immune that kind of damage. The only thing I would mention here is the Lancer GL bleed. The Lancer GL does not reflect, not make you sponge reflective damage. You will go down if you spam on like a GL on a Scion or something, or a Warden, unless you switch immediately to an explosive weapon that'll make you sponge it. Alright, Anchor, pistol bleed, so shoot everything with a pistol, and once it drops below half health, switch to a boom, drop, torque, salvo, or grenade, or scorcher. You'll be fine. Gunner, if you're a torque or salvo gunner, you'll be fine, because you won't take any damage from the reflecting. If you're running Tri-Shot Mulcher, you'll take some damage, but you have your ultimate, which basically counters their ultimate, so you'll be fine. Pilot, so if you have the drop shot, you'll be fine, because the drop shot is an explosive weapon, so you will not have to worry about getting damage being sent back to you. The only thing you would have to really worry about is like bleeding Mulcher on the Silverback. That might hurt you, or the Tri-Shot, that would hurt you too. It would heal you up until the point it reflects, and then it would reflect back to you, so just be careful about that. Veteran just does extreme rifle damage, so you don't have to worry about bleed damage here, but just make sure that when they reflect to you, stop shooting in your ultimate or whatever. Just be careful there. Brawler, I forgot to mention, this is the only class that does different kind of damage, which is burn damage. If you're running play with fire, make sure that like you switch to a boom or a drop. I have several clips of that. They start reflecting, so and you'll be fine. Medic, this is just like a rifle sniper class kinda that can do decent damage. Just don't really have to worry too much. Just don't shoot them when they're reflecting. Jack, and there isn't really much to say there. Maybe hijack them, so your teammates don't have to worry too much about them. Mechanic is engineer class. The only thing I recommend here is when you build fortifications like barriers, when reflective heavies or grenadiers walk through them and reflect, take damage unless you are holding an explosive weapon. So you'll see a few clips to where the engineer will take damage and then they'll switch to a boom or torque, and then they'll stop taking damage. So just remember on reflective shell mods to make sure that you are looking for one of those weapons. Robotics expert, repeat basically what I just said, same kind of thing. Tactician is just kind of demo with more ammo, right? So in order to counter a reflective shell here is just try to stick to boom and frags, really. A lot of people like to spam GLs and stuff, but you got to remember that the Lancer GL is the only explosive, semi-explosive weapon that not counter the reflective shell mod. If you shoot an enemy with the Lancer GL rockets and bleed them, you will go down and take damage. Unless you spam and then switch to a boom. What that'll do is it'll bleed it to halfway health, then it'll stop bleeding it, and then you'll have to shoot it again after the duration's over. So cautious of that. Architect, again another engineer. Just make sure that when you build fortifications, to have explosive weapon out to plunging the damage. Protector, I would just recommend having a boomer drop out as secondary weapon when meleeing Scions and Wardens and things like that. Slugger, you're probably fine because you have grenades, frag grenades all the time, and frags will sponge that effect. Horse Striker, another melee class. Just make sure you have your boom or drop or explosive weapon out and you'll sponge it as well. Also, one last thing I forgot to mention. If you're a class like a demo, you most likely have a weapon locker. And what you'll notice on these mods, I've seen a lot of randoms and players, they're like, I'm going down so much, what's happening? What's happening is you have a locker, right, of 4 booms. And what's happening is you're shooting stuff with a boom, stuff is reflecting. Cyan is reflecting. You take the boom, put the boom on the locker, and then switch to get another boom, and then you go down in the process of switching to out to get the other boom. The reason why you went down is because in the process of you switching to another boom, you held out your pistol or another weapon, and that will not sponge the reflector shell. So I'd recommend when you're playing those classes, remember that the enemy that you're shooting needs to stop reflecting, and then you can switch back. Otherwise, you're going to go down, and you're going to go up, and then you're going to go down again. You're going to get up, and then you go down again, because the bleed damage is so strong that that's just what it will do. So I have a couple of gameplay clips here, and you'll just see kind of what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to show an example of several scenarios. Well, here I am shooting an ice scion. It's reflecting. I swap to a torque bow, and I don't take any damage. And I should be good. Well, here's some gameplay clips. So you see the player is holding a lancer out, and they switch to a frag, and they're fine. So here you see that Cyan's reflecting in the background on the left there. The engineer is taking damage, and now he's not anymore. And I have another clip. Same kind of thing. Cyan's reflecting on the barriers and just take damage. Switch to an explosive weapon, and you're fine. So switching to a boom works just as well. It stops the bleed effect from hurting you. Wanted to talk quickly about like bleed damage. So like, of course, here's a clip where I believe I'm going to shoot this scion, this ice scion on the mist, and I'm going to hold the Nasher out, and it's going to damage me, and I'm going to die because the Nasher doesn't sponge the reflection, only explosives do. So I died right there. But here's the successful sponge. Here's the successful counter, switching to a torque right when the reflection occurs. I am sponging the bleed damage being dealt to me. I took some freeze damage, but that's because the cryo is a sniper rifle and it shoots across the map. I do have a couple examples of like, oh yeah, the Scorcher is also obviously, you wouldn't think this, but the Scorcher also helps prevent sponging reflective bleed damage. So see there, I swapped to a Scorcher and I stopped taking damage. I wanted to mention is you can you can bleed enemies with if you're holding explosive out, you'll be fine on reflective shell. You can also shoot enemies with explosive weapons when they're reflecting, and you will not get hurt unless it's a GL. GL is the only one where you will take damage. So don't worry about accidentally drop shotting or boom shotting a reflective drone or Cyan. You will be fine. The burn damage is like the only other type of secondary damage that's not bleed. So once you burn the Cyan or whatever past its halfway health point, it will reflect back to you. And I swapped to a boom and I sponged it there. Now here's a clip of the GL. So I'm going to shoot the Cyan second here. This drop shot Cyan. So it's not quite half health now, it's below half health. Swap to a GL, still taking damage, and I go down. GL is the only explosive weapon doesn't counter this effect. There's examples on Wardens, the same kind of thing. Switching to a nade prevents the burn or bleed reflection hurting you, and you'll be good. I believe that's everything there. I just wanted to show some clips of like, and just talk about it because I see some people struggle with it, so just wanted to bring it up and mention that for y'all. Well, I hope you enjoyed this longer than expected video on how to counter the reflective shell modifiers in Gears 5 PvE. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.